For service-based business, the key thing to know is that you are your product. You're not making a physical good. You're not building a website. You're not shipping a product. You are your product. So if you are a designer, if you are a consultant, if you are an attorney, you're your product, which means you've got to represent yourself always in the absolute highest light, provide the best quality work. And people are going to want to work with you because of you. You are your own marketing, you are your own best source of marketing, how happy people are with your product and service. So I want to go over with you what I think are the ways in a service-based business to set up a really successful relationship. And I ran this consulting company for a long time where we worked with dozens of startups and small businesses, and I developed a philosophy, and now having paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to other service providers through Docstoc, I really developed a philosophy of what makes for a good service provider versus somebody else. The first is always focus on how can I provide the absolute best quality service. But the most important thing is really taking the time to understand what are your clients' needs and goals. What do they most need? And don't just operate on a task-based assumption. Anybody can take a list of things that somebody wants to get done and just knock them out and do them. But to really understand what it is your client needs and to have them feel like you understand what they need, that's where it makes all the difference. And where most service-based relationships break down is in the communication of the expectations. So when I hired my first designers at Docstoc, we hired them as contractors. They were service-based providers. It was a husband and wife team, and he designed the wireframes, and she did the design. And they were great. They provided a really good quality service. But one of the things that we had problems with is my expectations of what we would get done in which time, and the speed in which we would turn around and what specific designs we needed. And I always liked what they did, but it never got done in the timeline that I needed. And ultimately, it was a large enough source of frustration that we said, look, we got to work with somebody else. And I don't think it was that they weren't able to deliver on what we needed, actually. I think we just didn't spend enough time communicating what the expectations of me as the client were. And you can never, as a service provider, leave it up to your client to tell you what their expectations are, because they won't know or they'll change. The goal of a great service provider is to pull out from their client what they need, what are your expectations, and then constantly be over-communicating. So if I expect that there's 8 designs that are going to be done in 2 weeks, as long as that person's letting me know ahead of time, hey, you know what? We'll be able to get those 8 designs done, but we might need an extra week, and they don't tell me the day after it's supposed to be delivered, but a week in advance. As the client, most times I'm going to be totally fine. The art of being a good service provider is in managing the expectations of your clients, in telling them what you're going to do, and then over-delivering on that promise consistently time and again. And where you don't meet the client's expectations, whether it's on a delivery or on the quality, letting them know ahead of time. And so other than the quality of the product, the key things that we all worry about is what's the timeline of delivery, what's the cost of the service, and what's the final product that I'm expecting. So I'm going to repeat this. In any service-based business, there are 3 key components. There's what's the final deliverable, when is it going to be delivered, and how much is the final cost going to be. And the reason why service-based business owners, some flourish and others have problems, the ones that flourish constantly over-communicate on those 3 things and over-deliver on value. What is it that you need here? Okay, you need a business plan done. What are all the different components of it? Okay, I got it. I understand exactly what you need in your business plan. What's your budget? All right, I'm going to make sure I'm going to keep to your budget of $1,500 to get this business plan done. When do you need it? The next 7 days? Done. I understand the timeline, I understand the budget, I understand the final deliverable, and I'm going to make sure I hit all 3 components. And service-based business owners fail when they don't follow that. The other big thing that you want to make sure that you do in a service-based business is right away have a really good consulting agreement. You want to have in writing, because I've just seen so many times arguments over money. People thought that one person said one thing, another person said another thing. You have to have a contract that you use that specifies in detail those 3 key points. Again, the 3 key things we want to know in a service-based business are What's the final deliverable, the expectations around it? What's the timeline, and what's the price that the client's expecting? If you constantly over-deliver on those, you're going to have a great service-based business.